Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video, but we're going to talk about DC Comics possibly being in deep doo-doo. DC Comics, a lot of announcements made over the last couple of days, and it does seem like, you know, what Wes was saying over at Thinking Critical, that the hammer is falling on DC Comics. Definitely, this company is in a state of upheaval, and you can thank David Zaslav for that. David Zaslav, the new CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, formerly of Discovery. This guy has made the rounds, and he's cutting everything that doesn't make money. He's cutting things that might possibly make money, but they don't make enough money. And he's got his sights set on DC, the whole thing. Not just the comics, but also the movies and the TV shows. And he's not afraid to cancel things he doesn't think are going to perform, like the Batgirl movie. You know, and there are rumors that Zaslav is eyeing up DC Comics, trying to figure out what to do with it, or gathering intel. His underlings could be gathering intel to pass along to whoever is in charge of DC next, which is, I think, the Lego movie guy, from what I'm hearing. But we're going to talk about all of this. You know, Fandom 2022 has been canceled. DC is opening up a new direct distributor, Universal Distribution. So this is in addition to Lunar. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Todd McFarlane doing DC Comics. There's been a lot of speculation that McFarlane Productions, Image, under Todd McFarlane, could actually take over production of the DC Comics superheroes, and there does seem to be some evidence that he's definitely looking at that. There's this new line of action figures that come with comic books that are done by McFarlane Productions. Pretty interesting stuff. It might be a test for Todd McFarlane, kind of like IDW was given a test that they failed, to see if they could handle the all ages Marvel superhero books, with the promise, as I understand it, that they would eventually be able to do more and more Marvel until Disney decided they just didn't want to do the Marvel heroes themselves anymore. But they failed the test, as I understand it. But it does look like Todd McFarlane is trying to put his name in the hat to take over the DC line, possibly, maybe. I don't know. Let's talk about all this. Speaking of comics, check out Crimson Ren Volume 1 from Clownfish Studios. I don't know who these guys are. I've never heard of Clownfish Studios. Clownfish Studios, yeah, we're putting out in a pretty exciting project for us. This is one that's been, years in the making. This is a story that Geeky and I have wanted to tell for about a decade now. This is the prequel to Shadowbinders. It does not require any knowledge of Shadowbinders. It's a standalone story. It's going to be broken into two parts. This is the first part, Crimson Ren Volume 1 on Indiegogo. Beautiful, beautiful art by Jose Garcia. It looks very animated, very manga-esque, and that's intentional. This is how we kind of, thought of these characters, the younger versions of these characters in our heads, as kind of an animated movie. And getting Jose, who's worked in and around the animation movie, to do the art has been absolutely amazing. Check us out on Indiegogo. We have 21 days left, and we're at $42,000, which is pretty good. It's pretty good, guys. You guys have been amazing. Todd McFarlane probably would make a little more money. Little bit more money because he's Todd McFarlane, but we'll talk about Todd here in a minute. Let's talk about this first. DC Fandom, which I think is actually one of the only successful online conventions. I've actually praised DC Fandom before. Now, I think that Warner was kind of fudging the numbers a little bit, but compared to San Diego Comic-Con at home, it was actually pretty well done, handled pretty well, in my opinion. But it's been canceled, and Warner Brothers is issuing a statement. I mean, geez, they weren't even going to do San Diego Comic-Con this year for DC, which is kind of unheard of. But yeah, they're in turmoil, guys. This year's DC Fandom has been canceled, ending a 2-year run of the virtual event hosted by DC Comics and Warner Brothers Discovery. The virtual fan convention will not be taking place this year, following the return of in-person events around the world, according to Warner Brothers Discovery. No, it's to save money, because it was popular. It's to save money. While it's unclear if this is the only reason, DC's upcoming slate of films did just have a big presence at San Diego Comic-Con. likely contributing to its decision to no longer host the virtual convention. Contributing to it, but remember, DC Comics did not have a booth. It was the movies. With the return of in-person events, Warner Bros. Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans live at numerous Comic-Cons around the world and will not be scheduling DC Fandome for 2022. Speculation around DC Fandome had been running rampant ever since DC's presence at San Diego Comic-Con was announced. Not the comic books, though. Not the comic books. Coupled with the fact that Warner Bros. Discovery recently moved the dates of various projects while also planning to sell off various films and television series, left fans wondering if there would be anything to even show at something like Fandome. Looks as if the company will simply return to in-person events, with their next stop being New York Comic Con in October. Again, this is the Warner booth, the movie booth. DC Comics did not have its own booth. That was an indicator that things were amiss. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some other things going on. DC Comics, of course, when the pandemic happened and when Steve Geppi and Diamond Distribution crawled under the desk in the fetal position, just didn't want to deal with it and thought that they should just put the entire comic book industry on pause, DC actually found a way around it. They cut a deal with Lunar Distribution, and now they're cutting a deal with Universal Distribution. This is coming from ICV2. DC has opened a new direct distributor, signing a global agreement with Canadian company Universal Distribution. The company has announced the agreement will take effect in October of 2022, when retailers will be able to begin placing orders with Universal for delivery of DC products in January and beyond. Under the new deal, Universal plans to not only service comic retailers in Canada, but also in the US and other territories. That's interesting. Universal is currently distributing DC Comics as a sub-distributor of Lunar Distribution, which until this new deal has been the only direct distributor of DC Comics in North America since summer of 2020. DC cutting off Diamond. Lunar serves retailers in Canada both directly and through Universal. This agreement enables us to provide retailers with the tools they need to grow their DC business. Our primary focus has always been to work closely with our key partners to help retailers provide a great experience for their customers. DC Vice President of Sales and Marketing, Nancy Spears, also commented on the deal. Our new partnership with Universal is in line with DC's overall strategic vision, intended to improve the health of and strengthen the direct market and grow the number of fans who read comics worldwide. This move sees DC doubling down. I've heard that term before in regards to comics. Doubling down on its distribution strategy and further mitigating operational and supply chain disruptions. We remain committed to the direct market and look forward to growing the network of comic book retailers to get the best comic books and graphic novels to fans in the most efficient and seamless manner. Okay, so here's what I think is going on. And it could actually support what Wes over at Thinking Critical has heard, that Warner Bros. Discovery is asking for numbers. They want sales data. They want to see sales improve. And it might have been that they were given an ultimatum. Now, this wouldn't have happened overnight. They would have had to have gotten the ball rolling a month or two ago, probably, to get this deal through. And it might have been hastened by the rumor. Again, this is a rumor coming from Wes at Thinking Critical via his source, but a rumor that David Zaslav's people were asking for numbers from DC Comics. They wanted to look at the sales data. They wanted to look at, just exactly where DC is. And right now, it's really hard to tell how many comic books DC is actually selling. I do know their sales are down considerably. This is Cosmic Book News talking about how, other than Batman, over half the comics published by DC weren't even making the top 100 list. And the top 100 is not that hard to crack right now, compared to what it was historically. So yeah, they're looking at this and they're like, you guys got to get your numbers up. And this is what I think is going on. I think we're going to save money. We're going to, cut the Fandome, cut the crap. We don't need it. And they waited until pretty damn close to when they would have announced it too. They're just like, yeah, we're not doing it this year. We're not doing the San Diego Comic-Con. We don't need to do it. Not for you guys. Coffee's for closers. Conventions are for closers. You guys aren't closing. You're not getting any extra money spent on you. And I think they're looking at this and they're, you know, freaking out. Salespeople are freaking out at DC. They're like, oh my God, we got to get our sales up. What can we do? Because the language in this statement is accountant speak, marketing speak. And it wasn't for the retailers. It's not for the media. It's for whoever's looking at the books at Warner right now. Like, we have a plan. Honest to God, we have a plan. We can get our sales up. I know this because I've worked at companies before where our marketing people, our salespeople have put out press releases and junk like this that's basically signaling to the CEO, please don't fire me. We have a plan. Honest to God, we have a plan. Just let us, follow this through, and things are going to be great by this time next year. If David Zaslav allows them to live until next year, who the hell knows what's going on? Again, he's not averse to just canceling movies altogether. Rumors of, Superman being rebooted, the Justice League, that Snyderverse or what's left of it is still in play. Apparently he likes the Flash. I don't know what the hell's going on. Lots of weird shit going on with DC Comics. The Batman cartoon got canceled. I mean, there's a lot of stuff getting canceled. And I think he's just ready to hit the reset button, except for the Flash, which basically that movie is the reset button. But anyway, let's talk about this, because this is something that has been discussed at length, both here and on other YouTube channels, including Ethan Van Sciver, who used to worked for DC for quite some time, and I'm sure has people over at DC currently or people familiar with the situation, relaying information to him. But the possibility of Warner Brothers just outsourcing the comic books to somebody else who gives a crap about comic books. Todd McFarlane freaking loves comic books. He does. He likes toys and comics. And now they've got these page puncher action figures from McFarlane Toys, which look pretty good, actually. But they come with pack-in comics. Remember pack-in comics? Those were cool. Thing is, these pack-in comics are being produced by McFarlane Productions for DC. That's interesting. So not only is he producing the pack-in comics, apparently he's got a Batman Spawn comic book that's coming out, and he wants it to be this century's biggest comic book. I mean, he did pretty well with King Spawn. I mean, we can argue as to whether or not those books sold through, but he sold a ton of Spawn comic books, which is so weird because Spawn was kind of just there for years, and then it seemed like he kind of made a comeback. And McFarlane actually has been in the news quite a bit over the last couple of years. I mean, he was kind of laying low, doing his thing, putting Spawn out regularly, doing toys. Now it seems like he's kind of back in the limelight again. It's almost like we need guys like Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld to come back and show these punk-ass kids how it's done, including their peer Jim Lee, because Jim Lee apparently doesn't have an effing clue as to what he's doing over there at DC Comics. But they're going to show him how it's done, hopefully. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But yeah, very interesting that he is actually producing the comic books. Because that could be, again, a test to see if they could just hand over all the comics to Todd McFarlane and say, you know what, you guys do them. You do the comics. We're not going to keep a staff anymore. Todd, comics pretty well. And actually, this art is really nice. This looks, kind of 90s, but that's okay. I'm cool with that. Be like, Todd, you know what you're doing. Hire the right people. Get your people to hire the right people. Put out good DC comics, because DC can't do it anymore. And keep the characters true to themselves. And we'll sell some books. You'll make some money. We'll make some money. Everybody's happy. Readers are happy, hopefully. Retailers are happy. We'll see what happens. Pretty interesting stuff, though, guys. Actually, these figures look pretty good. Except for Kissy Face, Rouge, He-Man. What's up with that? Pretty interesting stuff, though. We're going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Again, check out Crimson Wren. Definitely hoping to knock it out of the park with this one. We'll see where it goes. I'll put a link in the comments section. Talk to you later.